Hello, welcome. My name is Dwayne Hancock. I'm the legislative chair for EASMC. Today, we're going to be asking you some questions for the interview for our endorsement. Everybody's going to introduce themselves now.
Good afternoon, I'm Mary Ann Tomasic. I'm a career advisor at the Charter School, Virtual Academy, Fairlead Academy, and the Tech Center. Welcome.
I'm Elaine Deems. I'm a special education paraeducator at Leonardtown Middle School. Thanks for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Katrina Mills, Building Service Manager at George Washington Carver Elementary. Thank you for being here today.
Jennifer Knight, kindergarten para at George Washington Carver Elementary. Thank you for being here.
I'm Jennifer Lanerman, special educator from Great Mills High School. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon. For reference point, when we refer to educators, we're referring to all SMCPS employees, whether that be bus driver, food service, building service, teacher, para, lunch lady, every job that is incorporated under the umbrella of the Board of Education when we say educators. So I'm gonna start you off with your first question. Tell us about yourself and your background. What is your motivation for running for the Board of Education?
Okay, so a little bit about me is my husband and I have 6 children, and all have gone through SMCPS. We've got one left, he's at Choctaw, he's a junior. I stayed home with our kids and I raised them. Wasn't just because we couldn't afford daycare for 6 kids, it was because when I met my husband, I told him my priority is to raise them. No one loves them as much as us, and so I wanted to raise them. And so he would work 2, sometimes 3 jobs to make sure that I could do that. And so what I did was I would take classes here and there. They would go to bed at night, some would be online. I'd stay up pretty much all night and do them, always with the goal of being a teacher. That's just, I never wavered from that. So from age 5, my mother was a teacher and she took me to school with her in the summer. And it was then I knew that's what I wanted to do. So kind of did things in the reverse where I should have maybe not gotten married and had kids first, but I did start attending the CSM right out of high school. And then I remember sitting in the back of my classes thinking, I want to teach here too. So I kind of had 2 goals, be a teacher and then be a professor. So getting married, having the kids, raising the family. I didn't really get started teaching until 2011 when my youngest went to kindergarten. I said, okay, what I did first was I started volunteering at their school. I volunteered so much that one day the secretary, Margaret Brent, said, Ms. Edelen, you should work here. At least, you're here enough, you should get paid. I said, okay, what do you have? And I started as a para there. Loved it. It was the best. The only thing is I didn't make much money. Luckily, I didn't have to be the breadwinner, so it was okay for me. It was more of utilities, pay the electric and extra food and stuff. So again, kept taking courses, got my bachelor's degree, went to Esperanza. I was a para there, and I love that too. I would just follow students to classes, bring them back, provide remediation for them. Then I went on to get my master's and got a job at CSM teaching psychology, primarily at the Leonardtown campus, and was maybe within a year of that, a friend of mine went to Charles County Public Schools and she said, Brandie, you need to be here. The need for special educators is the need is strong. And so I've always been more along the lines of, if I'm going to teach, I want to be the most impactful that I can. And so Charles had a conditional certificate. So my bachelor's was in psychology and my master's in human services, but they allowed me a certain amount of time on the conditional certificate to become certified. So I did that and started writing IEPs, and I was a case manager and an advocate. Really, really had the best of both worlds, because by day I was an English special ed self-contained teacher and case manager, and then in the evening I was teaching at CSM. 2021 came, and after COVID, teaching at home, that I learned a whole different perspective, a whole different way of teaching. But being certified, I was one of maybe 3 out of a department of 12 or 15 teachers who are certified. So along with that came all the academic testing and things that conditional teachers could not do, fell on us, certificated teachers. It was a lot. So my job, my 40-hour-a-week job turned into 80 because I couldn't, with doing other teachers' academic testing and all of their responsibilities that they legally couldn't do, I wasn't able to do all of my case management responsibilities and teach 4 preps and have those 4 different curriculum because I was responsible for 9th through 12th grade English. I was taking my laptop home, writing my IEPs, and it became an 80-hour work week. And my husband came to me and he said, you got to do something. You're missing this, you're missing that of our own children, and when you break it down, you might be making $1.50 per hour and you're running yourself to death. So long story short, to get to this point, I went to my admins who, we had a great relationship, and I said, listen, I need help. You have to help me. Either someone has to help write the IEPs or run some of my IEP meetings, but I have to have some responsibilities reduced. And they said, we're short-staffed, and there's really no help. And I didn't, hold it against them, but it didn't help my situation. So I had to make a decision to stay or, to go. And I'm always gonna put my family first, and I chose to leave. Very difficult decision, and I miss it. But the funny thing is, the ironic thing is, I put in my notice, and then the next day I was informed that I was nominated for Washington Post Teacher of the Year. I had no idea. But even that, it wasn't enough to make me stay. And so I chose to leave, and I've been teaching at the college ever since. I don't even know if that answers your question. A little bit. That was a lot about me. So my
Your motivation for running for the board?
Okay, my motivation for running for the board. I didn't want to leave the position, and I contacted the union, my union reps in Charles County, and I said, listen, what can I do? And before I left, the months leading up to it, I was very much advocating for special education teachers and kind of putting out there to the public the need for them to have the amount of time that they need to effectively do their jobs, and how they're often overlooked as a teacher as compared to general ed teachers. So my motivation was, I became a strong advocate for teachers, primarily special educators, and I had a lot of people reach out to me on the last few months I was there saying, look, I'm reading your stuff that you're putting on, online, and I agree with you, but I'm fearful of my job, but I want to let you know that I understand where you're coming from, and I'm hoping that you will be able to make some changes in the county. So my motivation is that I've always been very passionate about advocating for students, for parents, and for teachers. And I felt like it would be best suited for me to run for a seat on the board to do that.
If you were elected, what would be your top 3 priorities?
So I'm really drawn to retaining teachers. So we need to recruit them and retain them. And I hate to see us have to go out of state, which we have to do, to acquire most of them. I would love it if paraeducators primarily in our county had the chance to move up. And at the time I was a paraeducator here, there was no option for me to be on a conditional certificate. So that would have, I would have stayed in the county and not gone to a different county had that option been available. Now I understand that there are certain instances where a conditional certificate may be approved, but it just wasn't available at the time. So I think we need to recruit. I would love to see us recruit within more, again, and then move people up into positions where they can be on a conditional certificate, but to retain them. So when I left Charles County Public Schools to come into St. Mary's County, I interviewed with several schools and they all offered me the positions, but I would have had to take a $10,000 loss in pay. And, discussing that with my husband, he said, but, discipline's better in this county and this is better in this county. And he was right, but when you're used to making a certain amount of money, contributing a certain amount to your household, $10,000 is a huge difference. And it's like going backwards, and that's the way that I saw it. So I know that the blueprint is going to boost that and make it more competitive. So that's, again, a priority to me, is we've got to be competitive so that people in our county aren't leaving to go to other counties for the money. I also would like to see more support in classrooms, not just in classrooms that need it for discipline reasons, but I know as a paraeducator, I was crucial to the effectiveness of my department. And it's hard to keep paraeducators because I believe they're overworked as a whole. And I didn't really, my lead teacher was very good to me. She really was respectful to me. She appreciated me, but I never felt as though I was valued as much as a lead teacher. And I obviously didn't get the benefits either. Like, days off, things like that. I wasn't paid. Summers, there was no income. So I definitely feel as though when a teacher is supported and there's an extra body in the room, it totally changes the teaching ability and what the students are going to get out of that, because it allows smaller groups and just better instruction overall. I also am a strong proponent of financial literacy, and I'm teaching at the college. They've now moved me to be primarily during the day, so I have a lot of dual enrolled students, and they're coming from Great Mills, Leonardtown, and Chopticon. And I'm going to be honest, they're struggling writing a paper in my class. Not all of them, but a good portion of 16, 17, 18-year-olds, they're still in school. And I'm having to devote a good portion of my class to what is a thesis statement, how do you write a reference page, how do you cite your references. That might not seem like a critical thing, but at least when I was growing up, you didn't attend college until you were ready for it. And it's alarming to me that the students are not. In addition, they don't know how to budget their money overall. And yes, some of this responsibility falls on parents. You need to sit down with your children and say, listen, this is how we budget, this is how you should save, this is a portion to spending. But overall, the students that I'm coming into contact with on a daily basis, whether they've just graduated or they're still in school, they can't write a resume, they can't fill out a job application, just basic skills that we used to have growing up that are not there anymore. So those are my top three.
Thank you.
As a Board of Education member, will you support the Education Support Professionals Bill of Rights?
I'm not even familiar with it, I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, so the ESP Bill of Rights was kind of a grassroots campaign that was started up at MSCA. And then their call went out to all of the counties in Maryland, and it's basically a call to action to throw more spotlight on ESPs and support professionals and our lack of living wage and other benefits. And as you know, ESPs, language for us was basically left out of the blueprint. So it's a way to kind of counter the blueprint and on behalf of ESPs.
Okay, so I'm gonna support anything that has to do with ESPs, just because I've been one, and like I said, I didn't feel valued either financially or any other way around it, so yes.
We'll get you more information on it.
Please.
Yeah, we'll get you more information
Okay.
on it too. Thank you.
Okay, next question. What are your guiding principles for evaluating and improving curriculum changes?
Curriculum changes.
Yeah.
I don't really have experience in this area, other than at the college level. So to address that, do you mean as a board member?
Yes.
Okay. So as a board member, it's important to me, and it always has been, to work as a unit. So you have to be on board. You have to have good communication with the other members, and that level of respect. And I believe once you have that, things like curriculum and policy, when you have open lines of communication, those sorts of things, when you have people that are willing to listen to one another and not necessarily change your ultimate decision on things, but when you have, like I said, mutual respect, I think it's a lot easier to look at things like that. What was the question again, so I can make sure I'm directly addressing it?
What are your guiding principles for evaluating and approving curriculum changes?
I mean, policy, just what is the current policy, and what would be the reasoning behind changing curriculum? What data is there to support that a change would be in the best interest? And obviously I want to know the citizens in the county and teachers, you know, what their thoughts are. So I think it's important to get input from multiple sources before, and looking at what policy currently is and trying to decide if that's the way we should go in the best interest of the county.
As a board member, would you support and advocate for lower class sizes and the funds to do so? Do you believe that a mandatory board guideline should be adopted?
I don't think that you're gonna find any data that supports that lower class sizes is not beneficial to students. I don't know that it exists. So yes, I would support and advocate for lower class sizes and the funds to be there for that. I know in my situation with my husband, we overpaid for our house to be in the district of the school we wanted to be in, specifically because they had a lower class sizes, you know, teacher to student ratio. And the education they received was, I think, was the best in the county as a result of that. What was the second part of the question?
Oh, I lost my spot. Do you believe that a mandatory board guideline should be adopted?
About pertaining to
Class
that?
sizes, yeah.
I need to think about this one. I would like to say that I would. Again, that raises, so many people become alarmed when you start talking about increase in funds to do that. But I think that it's important. I think unless you have an extra body in the classroom, it's extremely difficult for a teacher to be able to be effective with 25 to 30 students, especially now with special education students with IEPs. So yes, I think that it's necessary to keep class sizes down, and if that can't happen, then the money has to be there for an additional person in the class.
As a board member, how will you foster a positive relationship between the board members, the county council, and local unions?
This might be an unconventional response, but I find that most people, whether they agree with one another, when there's a level of respect for one another, they will at least listen. So I think the key is to treating every one of these people on boards, or anyone in general, with a level of respect to where they're not automatically gonna shut you out. So it's like running this campaign. We were all, some of us running against each other and others in other districts, but we set a precedence from the very beginning to put each other's signs up, remove each other's signs, you know, to eat together, so again, I think a lot of things can be done, even with people who disagree on certain topics, as long as no matter what you disagree on or how it goes, you have this level of respect and understanding, although you may not change how you feel. Once that's established, it's a lot easier to get things done.
As a member of the Board of Education, how will you incorporate the expertise of educators throughout the county when you are making decisions about the school system?
I think it's important to be in the schools. I think it's important to have an educator on the board. It's important to have not only a former educator, but a current educator. So I'm currently seeing, like I said, students that are enrolled in SMCPS through my college courses, but I think it's important to go to the schools and not get secondhand information, to see for yourself, to read with them, to watch instruction, and just to be present. I think that's the best way to know exactly what's going on.
Thank you.
Other than salary, what part of the teacher's negotiated agreement do you feel would attract and retain more teachers to St. Mary's County? And other than salary, what part of the support professionals negotiated agreement do you feel would attract and retain more ESPs to St. Mary's County? And if you could change one thing from each contract, what would it be and why?
I love these long ones. I'm gonna take them one by one.
Yes.
What was the first one again?
Other than salary, what part of the teacher's negotiated agreement do you feel would attract and retain more teachers to St. Mary's County?
Okay, so I'm gonna use, again, myself as an example. I was making good money in Charles County. It was not about the money. And a lot of teachers will say, you know, you hear all teachers don't make a lot of money, but you know, it does go by your education level and how long you've been teaching. I was very happy with my salary, and a lot of teachers are. The lack of support was the reason why I left. And that's a lot more often you're gonna hear that. So if you're provided a teacher mentors, I don't know enough about St. Mary's, I can't remember, but in Charles, we were provided a teacher mentor for 3 years. That was key to me, especially when I was gonna be evaluated. She would walk through with me, you know, what to nail, what to, you know, to really emphasize. So I can't tell you how often the teacher mentor helped me. And I think if teachers knew, upcoming teachers, you know, if they were not only, the blueprint's gonna address the compensation issue, but if they were told from the get-go, you know, you're going to have a teacher mentor for the first 3 years, and they're, you know, there to help you and support you in any way that you need, I think that would be extremely critical to keeping teachers. Second part?
Was, other than salary, what part of the support professionals negotiated agreement do you feel would attract and retain more ESPs to St. Mary's County?
I think there needs to be a more clear way of moving up. I think some people feel as though they're stuck in the position that they're in and there's really no room for them to move up. So more clear-cut ladders for them to do so need to be in there. Again, as a para, there just was no room for me without, you know, being certificated in this particular content area. There was nowhere for me to go. So I think them seeing that there are different avenues to go in order to move up would be critical to keeping them too.
And the last part was, if you could change one thing from each of the contracts, what would it be and why?
I have to be honest with you, I don't know the contracts well enough to answer that. You'll have to give them to me.
We'll get those to you too.
That's me, sorry. In your view, what challenges do you see the children in our county facing as they work to be successful in our schools?
I can tell you that phones are a major distraction. And there's no consistency with teachers saying whether they can have them or not have them. So in the school setting, a major issue I think kids face is from going from classroom to classroom and teacher to teacher. There's a lot of inconsistency with many things. That's confusing for a child. So there needs to be, like I said, more consistency to know what the expectation is. The expectation should be school-wide. So when you go to this room, this special, this teacher, the expectation for discipline, the expectation for the way you conduct yourself, for respect, for being kind, all should be the same. So one of the challenges facing them is there is inconsistency. I also think that they're just another challenge, and this directly relates to them, is, and this does not account for all, but a lot of parents are out of touch with their children's teachers. And for whatever reason it is, we're all busy, we lead busy lives. There has to be a priority made to sit down in the evening, and rather than going on social media and going to the school website or to the school newsletter that was sent out on Sunday, and to really see what your child is doing or what their school is doing and where you may be able to help in certain events that are going on that you think would be beneficial for you and your family and your student to attend. So I think something facing the kids is that the lack of parental involvement. I know for me, when my mother knew my teachers, and she told me they better not call me. And so when you're, you know, when there's such a lack of parental involvement, and like I said, me to say it to really get on parents, but they really need to take responsibility, is a lot of them don't truly even know their teachers, their child's teachers, what their names are, what subject they teach. Even to just send a quick email saying, how is my son doing in your classes, or any concerns, or anything I can do to support you at home. It's just not there. And so that is impacting the child. Discipline, their discipline is affected by that, because they're like, my mom doesn't even know my teacher, so it's no big deal. So there's a lot. Those are just the two things that I can think of off the top of my head.
Last question, as a board member, how will you ensure that the diversity of St. Mary's is a consideration in your decision-making process?
A diverse classroom is the best classroom to teach in, and I say that both at the public school level and at the college level. I'm gonna start with the college level. I just left class today. I have a class that I'm teaching that consists of ages 16 to 50. All different backgrounds. I've got some students who are from other countries where English is not their primary language. I have some that their 504 has carried over into my class, and so whether it's I wear a mic so that they can hear me, I have subtitles. It makes, and I told them this today, having this diverse class is great, because we can talk about things that happened in the old days with my 50-year-olds and 40-year-olds and the way things work when we're talking about a certain topic. And then we can talk about this modern way of thinking, and we compare them. And my students are learning from the other students because of the different backgrounds. So it's the most desirable teaching experience when I don't have to speak for 3 hours. I can have them talk to each other and them learn even more than if I was teaching it to them. In the public school setting, again, I think we're living in a time where students want to know about other students. Students want to know about their cultures and their language, and I think we've made it important for them. Did you ask me Can you read it again?
Yes. As a board member, how will you ensure that the diversity of St. Mary's is a consideration in your decision-making process?
I mean, it's part of who I am, so it would be difficult for me to take it out, but I would make sure that the other board members knew the importance, and I would talk to them about, what a diverse classroom looks like and the major advantages and impacts it has on learning. So again, I think I'm stressing put an educator on the board, because the different roles that I've filled, from para to teacher to advocate, it really helps when people who aren't coming from that background, who may not be a parent or may not have been in a classroom since they were a student, I can speak to how it changes lives and how important it is and how it can help them academically grow. Oh, that's it?
That's the last question.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be far worse.
Ms. Edelen, thank you for your time today. This concludes our interview. These interviews will be posted on our webpage and on YouTube. Thank you for your time again. And this concludes your interview.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.